Greetings. Welcome to another episode of Bahamian Banter with the Social Tinker. And today I have a really special guest with me. I've known him all of my life, and this is none other than my father, my daddy, Lyndon Tinker. How you doing, Daddy?
I'm doing great, baby.
Where are we today?
We're in Green Turtle Key on Cocoa Bay.
Who daddy is bringing them to Green Turtle Key to shoot the episode? My daddy. How long you been living in Abaco now?
Just finished 2 years. So, yeah, 2 years and a couple of months.
What made you move here? Oh, well, move here with my mom, FYI.
We came here, you remember Mom and I did disaster relief for Dorian. And then a year or so later, I came here to do a private project. Fell in love with it. Only supposed to be here for 5 months. Now we're in our third year.
Congratulations. One thing I've learned about Abaco since I've been here is the friendliness of people. And that's obviously widely known throughout the Bahamas, but there's a specialness to Abaco. Throughout your time, though, living in Long Island, Nassau, Abaco, what has been a key takeaway you've learned so far about the Bahamas and our culture?
Boy, we have such a rich culture that we don't know about. Our history, our islands. I mean, Bahamians just don't know what we have. And I just wish there was a way to expose Bahamians to what the Bahamas really is like. And I think if they got an idea of what we have, they will never give it away or sell it.
And speaking of history, what is your story, Lyndon Tinko? Who is he?
Yeah. Came from abject poverty. Third child. By the time my mother was 19, I was a third child. Survived it all. Been adopted a couple of times. But I always wanted my own family,
And you met Mom?
Met that wonderful woman. And the rest is history.
And you were able to have 3 beautiful kids, all of us now on our own, doing our own thing. What makes you feel proud about being a dad?
Oh, I think every time I think of what it was like growing you all up, the challenges, accepting them as a parent, but knowing that there was a standard I had to put into my children, and now seeing the results, greatest gift ever. I love being a father.
The standard that you talk about, though, is very difficult today for people to obtain. Is it because of you being that anomaly to not necessarily being a product of your environment? What do you equate this standard that you were able to give to Maradona and I? How was that able to happen from someone that came from such a, not a dark past, but a difficult one?
Well, remember I always told you all, I'm not the norm. I'm the exception. Because when I think of 10 people that started life with me, only 2 of us survived. In essence, successful with family and business and life itself. The other 8 died. So when I think about it, there must be a moral code that doesn't change. No matter how much the world change, a thief could never be accepted.
Yeah.
So that's a moral code. No matter how much life change, I have to tell you that committing murder is wrong. See, that's a moral code written in all humans. So as much as everything changes around us, what we've done, we've tried to move the moral code.
Yeah.
And we see the result around us.
Absolutely.
So you have to have that in place.
And that is something that you were able to find to build your marriage on as well. And the success rate of marriages today are so slim.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to persons that are interested in being married, how to cultivate having an integrity, a high morale marriage, and those who are married to continue maintaining that or cultivating it?
Next to being a father, being a husband is the greatest gift. And again, you can't change the moral code. And if you change, look at the Bahamas.
Right.
We're self-destructing, right? Because we thought we can have children with everybody and there's no price to pay. I'm a product of that. There's a price you pay for that.
Right.
But then I look at what the price is when you stick with the moral code of one woman, one husband, one man, one woman. I didn't know any better in the beginning, but I learned from the mistakes of others and my own mistake. So no regrets. Again, holding the moral code. We could fool ourselves, as we've done in the Bahamas. We thought we could get away with single parenting, and we created that word for it.
Right.
Society has proven, and Fox Hill Prison has proven, and our own fears have now come to roost that just how it took a man and a woman to make a child, the recipe doesn't change to create a good one.
And for those that are trying to maintain or cultivate that idea of keeping a unified home, it's difficult. It's difficult. You have so many temptations. And outside of that, just the responsibilities that comes with being a husband, a wife, they've shifted. Although morals, like you said, should maintain a certain level and standard, how does one maintain that in their home?
Well, from your experience, if I didn't recognize that there was a creator and that I'm a creation, if I didn't recognize that, then I would have lived by my own rules. But I recognize that someone made the trees.
Yeah.
Far more intelligent than me, because the tree keeps me and you alive, right? So once I recognize that someone made the trees and that person created a code, that if I followed it, I would have children that I'm proud of. I'd have a wife that I love as my own body and who respects me.
You love that boy.
Oh, I love my sweetness. But remember, I had to follow the code to discover that love. I came from a village, Fox Hill, where everybody had children for everybody.
Right. Yeah.
So I didn't know how to treat a woman. I didn't know you were supposed to love them. I just thought sex was what you had a woman for. But boy, once I discovered by association persons who live by that moral code, then I appreciate my wife more. I appreciate being a father more. And hence, life is really worth living now. Because again, that moral code taught me that there was more happiness in giving than receiving.
And how did that moral code start to intertwine with your professional life? Because you're a successful business owner, businessman. You had many companies. Shout out to Carl's Pizza, First Step Development, First Step Grocery Club, 99-cent breakfast. I can't remember the name of the car wash you used to have.
SD car cleaning.
SD car cleaning.
Before you were born.
Before my existence, you were once also a police officer. So you have evolved in your professional career. How has the husband and father you've been also assisted in the careers that you have chosen or become?
Yeah, well, again, those same moral codes apply across life. So if for instance, right now, we're building some of the most beautiful homes here in Abaco, custom built homes. If people didn't trust me with their ideas, their homes, which is someone's greatest asset, their money, which I'm using to build these things, then I wouldn't be as successful. So it's the same moral code. Just I'm honest with my wife, I'm honest with my client.
And that kind of integrity it can't be where you have one without the other.
You can't. Yeah, I'm the same person straight through.
Do you find it difficult then when you work with other persons that don't live by that same moral
Absolutely, absolutely. In the construction field, I'm trusting you in someone's home. So if we've had instances where homeowners call and said, something has been moved. Well, that means someone stole it.
Yeah.
Right? You remember in the restaurant, it's the same thing.
Yes.
People stole out the cash register. So, yeah, the challenge, in the new world that we're living in, that's not an obligation anymore, to be honest.
Right.
But, if you want to be successful, it's an obligation.
And the things that come to you because of being honest are the things that would also mirror who you are, I feel.
Yeah.
In working in Abaco, building homes. So you've been in construction most of my life.
Right.
I've only met you really in that, as you even did other things. What has been one of the toughest things that you would say in comparing it to Nassau's market? What is difficult about Abaco construction?
Because we're building in remote areas, that's a challenge. And then, of course, the talent pool is less. And Abaco market, really, if I'm going to be honest, there's the only industry now, a person's to bring in the industry to work are Haitians. So there's a communication and cultural difference.
Yeah.
Because I tell you in the morning when we're going to work on the ferry, it's 90% Haitians.
Got you.
10% Bahamians. So, but most of the Bahamians in that age bracket to learn a trade are either on drugs, they can't pass a drug test, or their social behavior is so out of whack. I mean, because again, they didn't come from a family structure.
Yeah.
So, family structure teaches you how to be upset with someone, but you don't kill them.
Right.
Because that's what taught us the dining room table. It doesn't mean you're upset, but we got to go eat at the table now.
Correct.
So that's the challenge we have. I can tell you across the board in the Bahamas would be to find a Bahamian under the age of 30 who was able to come in the industry, pass a blood test, and then also the behavior. How could you be upset with someone to where you become violent over a trivial matter, but you haven't been taught that because you didn't come from a family
Basic
structure
communication skills you weren't able to
learn.
To learn. But is that person teachable? Do you feel like if I 25 and I come out that way, am I able? At what point is that just an excuse and no longer something I could actually change?
We're all teachable, but do I have the time to do what your parents were supposed to have done?
Oh yeah, that's true. That's a lot.
So even in the industry, in business, I mean, all businessmen would agree with you now, with me. We're in business. So when we interview you, we expect for you to come dress a certain way and look a certain way and speak a certain way.
Correct.
But now, I go to the bank and I told the bank manager, I scared to come in here because this girl's trying to turn me on.
Yeah.
Look at what they're wearing in the bank.
Yeah.
So if the banking industry don't know how to dress anymore, imagine the construction industry.
Yeah. It's so true. And that goes to the other side of things. You understand the perspective of being a father, a husband, a businessman. What advice would you give to young women that would like to have or like to be in families or create families that are positive or just, a lot of girls today, they want a particular kind of husband or boyfriend, but they ain't getting the ones that are unemployed or the ones that you struggle with. How do I attract the right person?
That's the challenge. And I said that to you and your sisters a long time. It's going to be very difficult for you all to find husbands because the world has changed. Most of the men out there come from a single parent family. So he has never seen how to be a man. So you're going to have to look. It's going to be tough.
Daddy, you could just pick my husband. How about that? That's your job. You go.
Yeah, that would be nice, but I know that ain't realistic. But interestingly enough, the advantage you and your sisters have is that you've seen what a man looks like.
Yes.
Interacting with a woman.
Yeah.
So you know from a distance what the man should. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's the advantage you have.
I do agree with that.
But remember, most of the women, 80% of the young women in your age group has never seen a father in the home to see how to deal with an argument or disagreement.
Right. They would see things on social media, even music. A lot of things would influence the way they interact.
Everything about you comes from your family setting. And so that's going to be the challenge. Because I wonder, how could I see? I've seen it with my own eyes. You go to UB, you're a smart student, but the dude you dating ain't got no job and he drive off in your car.
And he got like three babies.
Mama.
Yeah.
But see, because you come from that environment. Right? Yeah. You have one last name, your sister got another last name, your brother. So you come from that environment, so that's normal. And
I find that even if you don't come from that environment, you so faced with that person or that group of men that you start to be like, well, if this is what I got to work with.
This is what you got to work with.
Yeah. I think this is where I'd like to segue into the importance of traveling, because you definitely put into us at a young age. I lived in Ecuador at 17, was able to learn the language, etc. Maradona was able to travel. I remember many summers where she used to work and live in Orlando. So how does one then, coming from this broken home, the only way they could travel essentially is through books, which is what you did when you were younger.
That's what I did. Yep.
Is that the defining mark then, to not settle?
Not settle. Travel? You can't settle, and you have to recognize that this is the right way and this is the wrong way.
Yeah.
And that comes to association. Find people who reflect what you want to be and fight like hell. And people aren't going to turn you down if you want to be like them.
That's true.
Be persistent. But remember, and I will say it and I said it to you all, my upbringing cannot be your upbringing.
Yes.
And I people get offended when they say single parent farm. I said, that ain't the way. Look around us, the price we paying for it. I mean, I had no choice but to be. I was born into it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I made the same mistake too when I was 19, having my first child.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got sense and realized that wasn't the way.
Yeah.
Because what, we were gonna keep that curse going for generation after generation? No, you have to break it, and we finally broke it.
And by doing that, I feel that you gave us a head start
Of course,
in life.
of course.
That any decisions now that we make is entirely on us.
You got it.
And you get the rest easy on your conscience, knowing that you did your best with your kids,
That's
with your
right.
girls, because he's a girl dad all the way, no boys. So you had to lean more onto emotion most of the time. Even though I feel like you grew us up to be a lot more logical than emotional, to be
Because
honest.
that comes from having a mother and father.
Yes, having that balance.
Yeah.
Because mommy at times could be way more logical than you, and you at times could be way more logical than her. So I see the benefit of that balance. Even in my career, I see how I could walk into a room filled with men and not feel intimidated. Walk into a room of expats, not feel intimidated, because I already know the value in me.
There you go.
So if you had a chance to reach out to these young groups of men and women, which you did, you used to do volunteer work at high schools when I was young, even at my school, reaching out into those. How do you make consistent programs like that where you're able to volunteer and use fundamental truths to enlighten their lives?
You know, I know they have all kind of programs, and God knows I know they mean well, but I find for me, it's easier by working through the ones in the church to help. I can help them because they're looking for moral grounding. If the person does, it has to start somewhere, and if you don't believe with a moral grounding that starts, then what do you build on top?
Nothing.
So if I came to you in this program and and you can see I got a couple girlfriends. Yeah, I'm married, but I got you in the program, and I teach it.
It ain't real.
It ain't real. It's just a program.
Yeah.
So that's why most of the programs you see
Understandable.
a big challenge.
When it comes to finance, how did you learn to manage your money? Because mommy always said you were excellent at money management.
Yeah.
How did you learn to do that?
I saw what poverty did to us, to your grandmother. And so I always, as a child, said, when I get my money, I can do one thing. I can save, but I wasn't going to waste money because I saw what happened when we didn't have any money.
Right.
We had no money. So I knew that from a child, I had to save, I had to invest, and I listened. I saw the older people regret selling their lands and selling the beachfront, and I always talk to you all about it.
Yes.
So that's why I started buying land for you all before you were born, because I knew an inheritance was important.
Yeah. And today, the way paychecks work, it's not sustainable to even really save. We were talking about how, for example, in Nassau, the housing market is where most people rent now.
Yeah.
And they can't necessarily afford last month, security deposit, all of that. So most people do weekly rentals.
Right.
How then does one save?
You have to do what I did. When I made $100, I stayed home. I know I couldn't go pay no rent, right? I gave mama $20 a week. I put $40 to $50 inside the bank every week. The rest was for me to survive on.
Right.
You have to. It doesn't change. The formula don't change. How you could go out there renting if you ain't making enough money? Stay at home.
Yeah.
Wake it up with your parents. I can pay. You always pay something because remember in life you have to pay.
Yes.
So I pay in the light bill. Parents happy with that. But for your generation, you can't own land anymore in the Bahamas because if we didn't buy it for you, you can't afford to buy it.
No.
And I don't care what salary, pretty much what you get, it's out of reach. So that's why parents have to plan for their children. But you have to also, like we did with the investment we did recently.
Yes.
That was because, again, I'm planning for your future.
Always. Just call me all hours of the night with ideas of what you're going to do, what you invest in, and how I can do it. And I really appreciate that because there's a certain mind that you have that I could never have, not only because of age and wisdom, but you a daddy, like the thought process you go behind things is always for how we could be better and more settled.
Yeah, and as parents, if we just live, my whole life now is how could I make it better for you all, even as adults. What I could do, because I'm older, I got a little more wisdom. Okay, and that's why he's be calling you in the
You
middle of the
old,
night
how
saying,
old you is, old boy?
"Don't worry about that." All right, so they still think I your boyfriend and I go.
That's so
right?
true.
All right,
That's so true.
yeah, but I just realized that it's more happiness in giving than receiving. So let me plan. I mean, your mother and I don't need anything else. So why not just, as we've always done with you all, prepare you for the future. Now your future's here. Then support you in your future.
Speaking of mommy charging right at us right now because she's ready to eat.
Yes.
But I had such a good time bantering with you, Daddy. Per usual, these are conversations we have all the time. But a part of the Bahamian Banter podcast is I wanted people to just meet everyone, every walk of life. It's not necessarily only Bahamian, but just our experience in the communities and cultures that we grew up in. And I'm grateful that you made every effort to make that experience different from Ardon and I. And I love you so much. I appreciate you. I'm so happy to be in Abaco with you.
Yes, baby.
And you have always been an exceptional person in my life. So Abaco is very fortunate to have you as much as I am. Look at mommy. Look at mommy.
Where she is?
Look at mommy. Mommy going to the party. Go get her.
Come, she ready.
She go after white man.
Yeah.
Thank you guys
Before I
for
lose my
bantering
wife.
with us. Have a great evening.